Welcome to the Jarred podcast. Jarred, by the way, I didn't tell you this. However, I think I have 3 people, potentially 4, that may be submitting music for our podcast.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so it'll go in the beginning. Hopefully it's good. Well, if these 4 people do it, it will be good. So, what are we doing today? We literally got on here with no agenda. Tell me about your crypto experience, or tell me about how you became a lawyer and why. Which one? Or
I'll
both?
tell you about the crypto.
Oh, all right. So, tell me about your crypto. When did you first buy your first, likely Bitcoin, or maybe something different?
It was definitely Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And I'm the type that just jumps into things. And I'll tell you, it was January 6, 2021, when I saw those people, running into the Capitol. Uh, and then I just happened to start looking at it because I heard Bitcoin was really good, or supposed to be good in times of sort of global unrest.
All right. So, capital. What year are we talking about here? 2020.
2021.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
January 6th.
January 6th, the day they ran into the thing, into the Capitol. And that kind of drove it because I was like, oh my God, we've got all kind of issues coming up. So let's, look at all what's going on then. I thought then was bad. Now I would be in it real quick. But really, I think what it is for me, I really enjoy watching sort of the prices going up and down. I guess it sort of feeds a bit of a buzz for me.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely. You probably don't need to gamble as much if you're into crypto. Probably.
Oh, that's accurate, and
Yeah.
I do very much enjoy gambling. I haven't bet on any sports games in a long time, but I used to have a lot of success. NFL football, but sort of that itch is scratched by crypto. I don't know if that's necessarily speaking good for crypto or not, but it certainly scratches my gambling itch.
Yeah, so you got in. We had a bull market, so we had an NFT market also at the same time. I remember you trading a bunch of Ethereum
Yes.
and Ether. I think, isn't that your favorite chain, or it was?
It was at that time because it was just going up and up. Look, when I started buying it, it was like maybe $600 a piece or something, and
It's
it
pretty
just
pretty
kept,
low.
yeah, it kept going up and stayed up, and I was just sort of kind of blown away by just the flexibility that you have with crypto. I mean, just and the ability to get into and out of something just immediately. I really enjoy that about it.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a 24-hour market. Yeah, it's also nice that if I want to send $1 billion to any wallet in the world, no one is going to double check, triple check. I don't have to get my OFAC forms filled out. However, whenever I do send $1 billion in cryptocurrency, I make sure that we are under the rules and properly sending out all of our OFAC forms and all those things. So um, let's keep that in mind.
Well, yeah,
We do everything on the up and up, ladies and gentlemen, including paying our taxes.
yeah, you got to do it right. You got to know your customer sometimes. Now, not all the time. No, I
Right.
mean, so that's part of what makes it a great thing. It's permissionless. It used to be back when we were kids. If you wanted to borrow money or do anything, I mean, you'd have to go, get a loan. You have to put up your property as collateral, whatever. In crypto, you can put up your crypto collateral and borrow from it and pay it when you want. There's no creditor. I mean, you're the creditor and
Yeah.
and the debtor.
No, I think that's kind of a nice sort of segue into what do you do now with it? What are the sort of best parts about it, and what are kind of the worst parts about it?
Well, I think the worst part is that I've been waiting since the end of 2021 for there to be another bull market, right? And I mean, I'm just waiting around, come on, man, it's gonna catch on, bro.
We did hit another all time high like a few months ago though. Keep that in mind.
Oh, I know.
70 plus, baby.
I think this bull market's still going.
Okay.
You know, I think it's still around. You know, but I'm just sometimes I can be a bit of an impatient, rash individual, and I like to push the action. So, you know, what I really liked when I had all that Bitcoin and Ethereum is trading it back and forth. I felt like a freaking market maker, you know. But you can feel like that because you can make an order in crypto, and if you make it for big enough, you can watch the market like react to your order. It's very empowering, you know.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, and I think you know the sort of the best option to me, and sort of the best thing about it is that you know you can do what you want. There's no government manipulation. There is sometimes whale manipulation depending on which coin you're in, but I can live with that. And the nice thing about it is you can log in, you can send whoever you want, you can DeFi whoever you want. You don't have to worry about overdraft fees. You don't have to worry about anything. Now, I have been in a situation where I didn't have any gas. Multiple situations where a lot of times. So even I remember the new lava token is what I was on. I forgot the name of that chain, but the lava token. There was a way to get the lava token, get on the chain. I think it's the Elysium chain. And the faucet wasn't working. So, ladies and gentlemen, when a new chain first opens up and the gas token is something that you don't have, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll have a faucet. And this sort of, it'll give you a small amount. That way you can run transactions on the particular blockchain. But I didn't have any. Luckily, I was in a Discord. Shout out to my homies on the Neo Tokyo Discord. That bailed me out and sent me some gas money.
Gas?
Yeah, I was out of gas. And more than once, I've had to text my nephew and say, "Hey, can you send me some ether? Can you send me some Ronin? I ran out."
Dude,
now he's done the same thing to me, so it works out. But so that's kind of the fun. I think the fun part about it really is, it's a whole new way of interacting, and it's a whole new way of protecting, and there's a lot of security involved in it. And all right, so continue on. So what do we do now? Tell me some more.
Well, and we talked a bit about the NFTs that were blowing up at the end of 21, and I had the chance to go with you, Jarred Bradley, to Las Vegas for the Rare Evo event, and for the Neo Tokyo crowd was out there. Very cool. You know, you go into this. It's a museum for NFTs, and they've got well, of course they have.
That was the Journey Crypto gallery in downtown Las Vegas. Shout out to Journey Crypto. It was a great event. It was a great space. Dare I say, tons better than the actual Rare Evo event.
Yeah.
I was just kind of underwhelmed by it, especially RFK Jr. not showing up for his speech. He was a headliner. I mean, to me, you got to show up for that.
What he missed it for voice lessons. I heard. I don't know.
That's harsh, man. But I mean, I guess his campaign knew that the end was nigh.
Yeah, but I got a cool hat out of that. It says Kennedy and Shanahan or something like that.
There's not that many of those, I would imagine. I'm sure there's a lot, but...
Well, there's a lot, but then there's not going to be that many of them around in a couple years. So
it's probably a collector's item. Definitely keep that and put it on eBay in 400 years.
Oh.
Probably be worth something.
Yeah.
Doubtful. If he won, I think it would be worth something.
Yeah. There's plenty.
Although he is a Kennedy, I mean that's something.
It's something, but
it's not a lot of something, but it is something.
Yeah, I mean, aside from if your last name is Kennedy, you can get away with a lot of awesome shit. But I don't know.
By the way, after our last show, my wife asked me who Larry Zonka was.
Oh, Well,
As we were shouting out just like random sports people. Anyway, Dolphins running back.
1972.
Potentially one of the best. Well, definitely one of the best. Potentially. I mean, look, running backs, I think, in 2024 are probably built entirely different than running backs from 1972. I'm just going to throw that out there. No shade to Zonka because he crushed. Probably would crush today. Maybe just a little less because he's not, I would say, an elite specimen as everyone is in 2024.
Yeah, you've got every single guy that can get in the backfield in the NFL these days. It's an unbelievable athlete and a hoss, if you will. Just fast as anything and strong.
But hopefully that's not too ADD for our followers because, I had to bring that up before I forgot.
Well, I was going to go off on Mercury Morris for a little while,
Mercury Morris. Wow,
but that's ADD.
I mean, this show really probably should turn into a fantasy football from the 70s discussion.
Yeah.
And, probably all 4 people who are interested in it would really, really enjoy this podcast.
They would appreciate it.
I think so. So that's a thought. I am, by the way, playing with mostly family members. I am playing on another fantasy football team this year. It's called Hogshead Cheese, which is also my X handle if anybody wants to look at it. I think my team is okay. I drafted a quarterback in the first round.
What? Nobody does that. You did it.
I did it.
Okay, who'd you draft?
Well, I really wanted Patrick Mahomes.
Mahomie.
Of course. So, I was the 9th pick. My son was the 8th pick. Chose Patrick Mahomes. And so I had to get Joe Burrow. I know he had a rough season last year, but I think he's going to have a really good season this year. Now, when we got our draft results, the number 1 and the number 2, he was first, I was second because we chose. And our team and our league is set up where quarterbacks make more points because of passing, completions, as well as like cumulative yards. If you have one that throws for say 400 yards, and that's way better in our league than it would be in a regular league. So I think that's probably why I did that. But he picked Mahomes, which is definitely a good choice. Burrow, I think, is going to be pretty good. And my team's okay. I mean, I'm not, like, stoked by it, but I'm relatively happy with it.
Well, do y'all have that serpentine draft order?
We do, yeah. So I was 9, so then somebody went 10 twice, and then I was, picked, 12. So
2 quarterbacks in the first round in your league. That's unusual.
It is, but typically those are the 2 that should go in the first round.
If anybody's
If anybody, yeah. And nobody went again for a very long time. And by the 5th pick, I believe I had 1 quarterback, 2 wide receivers, and 2 running backs. So I think I'm okay.
I don't play fantasy anymore.
Fantasy's fun. You should probably get into it.
I know. I've played it before. I played right when it was first. I think it first getting pretty popular when we were in college, right?
Wow. What? To me, that's probably one of the greatest inventions to get people to watch football. I don't know who came up with it. It's a genius idea. I mean, truly a genius idea.
I mean, especially in those days when you couldn't bet on the games in every single state.
No, that's. You remember those days?
Yes.
Are we old enough to remember the birth of fantasy football? We are.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are here. Especially if we know who Larry Zonka is, we probably are old enough.
Oh, we're old enough. I can tell you right now, before we left for college, when we were at Jesuit still, there was a video game that was available in it was like the Electronics Boutique or the GameStop, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And it was fantasy football. And, we didn't know anything about the internet back then. At least I didn't. So this was a thing where it would set up on your computer. You'd put the game on your computer, and you would input the stats every week manually.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the old way.
The old way was like somebody posted it, and you wrote it in.
Yeah, written in. Now, the first time I ever played,
We're old, man.
because yeah, dude. Well, the first time I actually played, though, it was, as far as I was concerned, the internet had just come out, and it was online. I think it was CBS Sports might have did the first one.
I think that is the first one.
Yes.
I remember CBS Sports, they killed it.
CBS Sports did it, and I played in that league, and I was never invited back to play with those guys because my team lost. It got near the end of the year, and, well, fantasy football was a new thing, so Jarred decided to get his money back at the end of the year just because.
Nice.
So I sold Terrell Davis to a good friend for a lot of money.
That's smart.
He was in the playoffs. I was out. I was going to be out, so I sold him.
No, that's good. That's smart.
I wasn't invited back, and then they made a rule that you couldn't do that next year.
Probably a good rule.
Right. So I didn't play for a while. Then I started playing with some law school guys. I lost for a couple of years, but then we switched it to 1 year. It was where a league where you bet, like you give a certain amount of credits, and they run these just like fantasy football out there. You bet on every game or however many games you want, NFL, college, and who has the most money at the end of the year. And I mean, that's my gig, man. Like gambling on football. Let me tell you something. Especially at that time. I mean, we definitely hit more than 50% for the year, but really, I think the guys were a little disconcerted when it was 1 week I bet on the Buffalo. I had 7 or 8 bets on the Buffalo Bills to win. I kept on upping the bet on the Bills all day when I would win. And guess what?
I mean, the Bills were a good choice, man. They went to the Super Bowl 4 times in a row.
I know. Well, yeah. And
Lost every one.
Was that with Jim Kelly back in the day? Yeah.
Jim Kelly was incredible.
Wide right. Yeah.
Incredible.
And they had that wide right kicker. I forgot his name. Wade Ritchie.
Oh,
Wide Ritchie.
We had, and then
who was the kicker?
Was it, the Giants game with the miss? Man, that was incredible. But, all right, I did look up while we were talking. The first fantasy football league actually started in the early 1960s with Bill Winkenbach. This is the greatest name of all time. It's called the Greater Oakland Professional Pigskin Prognosticators League. He was a part owner of the Raiders and started really he's called the father of fantasy football. And yes, we are confirming that CBS Sports was the first online entry into fantasy football back in 1997, which I think really changed the game. You know, once you're able to choose online, even if it's slow, change your roster online, see who's available, it makes the commissioner's job easier, right? You don't have to have the phone call and say, okay, who do you want this week? All right, now I got to call somebody else. And then that whole process to get that done, writing it down, proving that, no, I really started him, not him. And
yeah.
It's okay. But all of that is so much easier now. So to me, I think, honestly, the next sort of evolution is going to be with crypto. And, I mean, fantasy would be like just it's ripe for that, where you could plug your token, stick it into a smart contract. It already automatically updates now, but you'd get paid automatically. You could bet on individual games. You could bet on individual stats for the week, and I think it would make it sort of a lot more fun, and it certainly would make it a lot more interesting. And by the way, I've never played fantasy soccer, but my other son, who's not playing fantasy football, wants me to play fantasy soccer. So, all right, well, did you look it up? What's the game?
Scott Norwood.
Scott Norwood, yes.
He kicked a 47-yard field goal wide right.
Yeah, what year was that?
That was in 1991.
Okay, yeah.
Like a freshman, sophomore year.
Yeah, so I remember I watched that with my brother, Sean. And, man, that was a really good game. I mean, down to the wire.
Yeah.
Norwood.
Oh,
that's a tough loss.
Yeah.
They made some probably really good movies about Norwood angst. Buffalo 66, I think, mentioned Norwood.
Oh, they refer back to like he got too excited, too angsty. and blew it.
Blew it.
You know, but that team they had,
That
think
was a
about
great
it.
team, man.
Thurman Thomas,
Oh, so good.
Jim Kelly, of course, on defense. Cornelius Bennett,
Yeah.
Alabama star.
Yeah.
Uh,
wow. What a team. Bruce Smith, was he in that
Bruce
team?
Smith, I think, was on that team.
No, he was a Redskins player back then.
Okay.
I don't remember. No, he was on that team. He moved around a lot. He was with the Buffalo Bills. That's correct. Yes, he was definitely with the Buffalo Bills. And then I think he went Redskins after. Number 78, Bruce Smith, one of the best defensive ends in football history.
Oh, that's right. The wide receiver duo, you would never have forgotten them back then, but now it's tough. Lofton and Reed.
Lofton and Reed. Oh, man. See, that's
James
like that,
Lofton.
yeah, that brings me back to Tecmo Pro Bowl days. So, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So Bruce Smith was with the Bills from 85 to 99, and then Redskins 2000 to 2003.
Yeah.
What an amazing player.
Yeah.
And I hope Bruce Smith and his family are living it up.
Oh man, that guy is cool. You know who else I like from back then? A contemporary of Bruce Smith's was Dexter Manley. Remember him?
Dexter, yeah.
Dexter
Absolutely.
Manley played for
100%.
Washington Redskins.
Yeah.
Fuck, dude, he was so bad. He kicked everybody in the yard, boy. Kicked their asses up and down the goddamn field, boy. I'll tell you.
That is awesome.
Now, Dexter, I don't think
you
you could.
called? They're the Commanders now.
The Commanders, yeah, but they were the Redskins back then, and Dexter Manley, you know,
I really think they should be the Redskins again.
They
I mean, I'm not one to choose. It's not up to me. Maybe it's just nostalgia, but I really miss the Redskins. That was a good team.
yeah, it was great. It was just, and the best part about it was that really, I think that they actually back then did their due diligence and talked to local Native Americans and got it approved.
Well, they used to be the Braves. Then I think they changed. They were in Boston. I remember this.
Boston
I used to
Braves.
live in Boston, so I think they became the Redskins, and then they became the Washington Redskins thereafter. They had a couple of good teams, honestly.
Yeah, Nixon was a big football fan, as you know.
I'm a big fan of Nixon.
Yeah. You ever heard about how he used to try to send plays in to the coach?
That doesn't surprise me, and that's really awesome.
Yeah,
and they should have let him, honestly.
They let it. The coach took the messages, but he didn't run any of the plays. And
But
after
at least he took the messages.
he took the messages out of respect, but he did say, "I kind of wish Mr. Nixon would just stick to governing and let me do the football." Who was that? I wonder who that coach was back in '72. Was
That's a good question. All right, Google that. We're gonna look that up. That's exciting.
Of course it is.
Very. And then I think, I believe
George Allen.
George Allen. Okay, and then I think the Redskins beat the Broncos for their for one of their Super Bowl victories, like the mid '80s.
It was in 1990 or something.
87, 88, something like that.
I don't know, but that was the game when Doug Williams was the first African American quarterback to ever start in a Super Bowl, and he had the greatest Super Bowl of all time. I remember watching that specifically. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. All right, so let's look this up. Okay, so it looks like the Washington Redskins have had 3 Super Bowl championships. 91, 87, and 82. Very, very exciting.
Yeah, 1982. That is when I forgot that guy's name. He had like a 60-yard touchdown or something to beat him. Riggins. John Riggins.
That's right.
Yeah. So in 1988, you're right. It was, and Washington beat Buffalo in the '92 Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's right.
But in
91, 92, whatever.
it was '92. They played it in '92. It was a 91-92.
91 season, but it's
Yeah.
played in February '92.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes
That's back when they used to play the Super Bowl in February. Remember that?
that makes sense.
Used to follow my mom's birthday a lot, February 22nd. She was really appreciative of that. But yeah, dude, we've
Good
seen
times,
some
man.
great good football over our lives.
So I will say that I've noticed my personal interest in football has declined over the last decade, quite a lot. I don't play Madden as much. I mean, I'm also older. However, Madden is fun, but fantasy football sort of still keeps me in it. But I think when the Saints won the Super Bowl, that was sort of just like a pivotal point in my, I think, football career, watching career. And after that, I was like, I'm satisfied. Like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah,
it was a strange. I thought I was gonna be like, oh man, I will always watch football. And then after that, I was like, don't care.
Yeah,
that's strange. I really don't care to watch. I mean, I will, and I'll enjoy it, but it's not the same. I don't have the same enthusiasm that I used to have.
Yeah, but we were waiting for the Saints to win. It was like you didn't want to give up on the season.
Never.
But now it's like we had a couple, when it didn't look like the Saints were going to be good the next year under Peyton or whatever, we were like, I blame the NFL for that, though. Roger Goodell.
I mean, yeah. Well, Roger Goodell screwed the Saints.
He's a goon.
Yeah.
I'm going to call him out right now, Roger.
Yeah, this podcast is not brought to all of you by Roger Goodell because, fuck Roger Goodell. I'm going to say it.
He's kind of a douchebag,
He fucked the Saints over. I mean, royally. And, we sort of just let him in a way and didn't fight, and that turned me off. I think.
Yeah,
and then the Rams play.
That was bullshit, man.
That was literally the nail.
I was there with a good friend of mine.
I was there too, and I was like, man, what a game! And then after the end of the game, I'm like, this just put something on me that I just after the Super Bowl win and that I just don't care anymore. Now I really don't care anymore.
And
Guess how many Saints players are on my fantasy football roster?
Probably none.
Probably none. It's actually none, which is sad. And I went in thinking maybe I'll get one, and I just didn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, the ref clearly looked at it. That play, I don't even remember. I just remember that was like an insanely long moment, just sitting there, like, wait, oh yeah, he's gonna, like, oh good, awesome. Pass interference. I'm like, wait, he didn't call it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, I don't think that's reviewable. So many rules. I get, as a lawyer, I probably should care about the rules, but I don't.
2 years later, they made it. I think you can do something about pass interference.
I don't know. I don't know anymore. I know kickoffs are different this year.
I know the games are likely fixed, and I'll tell you why.
I like this.
When
theory,
I was winning all those football games, and that league wouldn't have me back because I got way ahead. I talked a lot of shit because the other guys, in the fantasy football league, when they were winning, they would talk a little shit. Well, I got excited that year because I was winning, but I really talked a lot of shit, and so they won't have me back now, and that's fine. But
screw them.
I wish I knew. I wish those guys just understood me better, man.
You can join our league next year. How's that?
That's cool.
I mean, we have 10. We can always add more.
Yeah.
We need 2 people though, because it's got to be even, right? 11's weird.
No off weeks.
You got to have 12.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yep.
10 is, I think, too easy also. I think it should be 12.
When I was winning all those football games, I would go through, I would look at the spread, I would look at the total, and a lot of times I would basically say, all right, what is the predicted score of the game? And you know how you do that? You take the total. Yeah. And then you divide it in half, and you apply the spread to it, and you get a predicted score.
That's cool.
Right. And so, and I also did this. I also went and looked up on the computer, in the history of NFL football, what are the how many times have these scores come up? That's all you're betting on is a score. So,
was that on AOL? How you looked it up, probably?
Oh no.
Netscape.
No.
This is after. This is Google.
This is recent.
This is
I was a full blown lawyer, and
okay.
And I was way mature to know better than to talk this much shit to my lawyer friends.
And so you think that,
Oh, it's easy.
Yeah, like the game. These numbers have come up so many times.
Yes.
It's like a predictive.
It's
algorithm almost to figure out who's going to win this year. Man, I was always never. I didn't really believe that, but then that Rams game, I was like, God, they really want the Rams to play?
Yeah.
Like we won that. We deserved that. We were there. We had it. You know, we were about to score after that. You know, it didn't matter. And then that happened, and I was like, I was soured. I really was.
Yeah. Oh, it's a. I mean, I don't know if they fix every single thing about the games, but I'll tell you what. A lot of time I would sit there in the beginning of the year and use this algorithm we were talking about, and then it got near the end of the year, I would use the algorithm, but paying attention a little bit to how they covered games and who they thought was cool and who they didn't. You kind of know you can sort of create a popularity contest.
Interesting.
And use that with your algorithm, and you'll be just fine. I mean, like I never did under like 60%, man.
That's pretty good, man. That's good.
Yeah, it's good. It ain't bad, you know.
So how do we fix it? I mean, it's not up to us to fix it.
We don't want to fix it. We just want to see. We want to predict the fix. Now, the fix don't always work.
True. Yeah. Sometimes it can be overcome, right?
Right. The fix can be overcome. Now,
and the Saints are. I bet the Saints are leading in fixed games that they've blown, meaning that they were either won when they weren't supposed to or lost when they were supposed to win. And just because the Saints are, I'm sure like probably every team feels like the Browns, maybe another one where they're like screwing it up. I just feel
I'll tell you what,
they have the Who Day, we have the Who Dat. There's like some similarities there.
Oh,
There's
you're
like
talking about
angst.
Cincinnati.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Who Day.
Yes. Who Day is Cincinnati. No, I am talking about the Browns. I forgot that Who Day was indeed the Cincinnati chat, not the Browns chat. But the Browns, I think, have the same sort of team angst. You know, and I mean, we won a Super Bowl, so we maybe don't have that anymore. But I know we always had that up until that Super Bowl win. Up until we got Drew Brees.
Yeah.
We were sort of one of the laughing stocks of
we were
the league. I mean, honestly.
We were the Lions. Boy, how depressing would it be to be a fan of the Detroit Lions?
By the way, one of the only cities in the United States that has filed for bankruptcy.
Yeah. I mean, thinking to take the Pontiac Fire Dome or whatever, man. Come on.
Yeah, wasn't that for sale?
I think it was, and I don't know. I just have this joke on my mind.
I'm pretty sure you could buy that. By the way, I know as much about bankruptcy as a non-lawyer, but I do know. I think is it Chapter 9? That's a
Chapter 9.
That's a city. I think a city files under Chapter 9. So let's look up the Silver Dome. That's an interesting question. I remember that was
Pontiac
definitely
Silver
for sale.
Dome.
I mean that's a famous.
It was famous,
it's
all right.
a famous place.
Depressing to look at, but
it is.
Well,
yeah,
look.
I don't. Did they tear it down?
Okay.
I really don't know. I don't know much about Detroit. I've been there, but
before Pete Carroll got to Seattle, that place was another sort of laughing stock, except in the early 80s with Steve Largent, and I don't know. They had some other guys that were good. I just remember that guy from football cards.
So I'm cheating. I'm using Wikipedia, which I despise. So yeah, I think it looks like in 2017 it was a partial implosion to tear it down, and Amazon is going to develop the Silverdome site into a distribution facility. This is according to This is according to Wikipedia. That's the last entry. It says site redevelopment. No, the distribution center opened in 2021, so it is now apparently the Amazon Silverdome. And I don't think it's a Silverdome anymore.
Probably not. I mean, why was it ever? Do they have a lot of silver in Michigan?
I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. It's one of those, like Detroit was, like Motown, perhaps Chrome, but it should have been the Chrome Dome. I like that better.
Yeah.
I'm partial to Chrome Dome.
Oh, it actually Although the roof has always been white in color, viewed with the naked eye, the stadium obtained the name Silverdome, which it officially took in 1977 due to a silver-like reflection caused by the sun, mainly noticed from the sky.
Interesting.
So a bunch of guys
planes
flying
like
over.
Plane, yeah, like that's silver.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So shout out to all our Detroit listeners, all of you, all one of you.
Yeah.
We appreciate you, and hopefully you'll invite us there. I would like to potentially go back to Detroit and see its sort of revival. I think lots of cities are going through that. New Orleans, where we're from, we've had sort of a debacle of a city where I think we had lots of potential and then have blown it many times. Still, it's a great place. I mean, it's very European, probably the most European city I would imagine in the United States, which makes it great. But also, I think I was having this discussion the other day. We're like on a lazy scale here, so not quite Caribbean lazy. Where if you go to the Caribbean, you're chill, man. And if like you're on a break and there's a customer knocking on the door, I'm not answering the door. I'm finishing my break first, and then I'll answer the door.
Right.
They can wait. New Orleans isn't quite that level, but I think it's certainly not L.A. or let's say Dallas level where there's like some high intensity work going on there. We're a little lazy, although I think you and I are not.
We're not lazy but let's face it. We're talking about a town, and it's been like this forever. It's nothing new.
It's a culture thing.
Yeah, one of the things that really will get under my goat or get my goat about this deal in this fucking town is the fucking, like, people will come to try to do business here, and every politician has their fucking hand out, and guess what? They don't want to do business.
Well, so and we've the Bradley law firm's been involved in some I think one of the most political things we've been involved in. We have had some cases that they're not exactly resolved, and I won't really talk about those, but I will talk about some zoning cases that we had. One in the French Quarter and one in St. Bernard. To me, it's fairly straightforward. You have a building zoned one way, and my client came to me and asked me to zone it another way so that they could do something different. And both of those were just so intensely difficult. The one in St. Bernard, we were changing it was just a vacant piece of land directly next door to a fire station, which you can imagine can be loud, right? Especially if there's a fire. Probably not loud if there isn't a fire. And my client wanted to turn it into a car wash. So there's a specific zoning for car wash. And we went to multiple meetings. We eventually had to meet with individuals who lived directly behind it, assure them of what type of landscaping we were going to have, the size of the wall, and the council would not approve it without a sign off on the neighbors because they didn't want to get voted out. And then the one in the French Quarter was so difficult, and we were, I believe, just putting the air conditioning on the roof. We were extending the roof a little bit. Funny thing is, across the street is the Monteleone Hotel, which is 100-something stories, and that's not that high.
It's not that high, bro.
I like to say it's 100 stories just because I think that was my argument. Was like, this is 100,000 stories high. How is our air conditioner across the street going to affect anyone's view? Because all right, in the French Quarter, you have the Monteleone Hotel, which is incredibly taller than any other building there.
Beautiful.
And it's wonderful. It's a great building, and it's across the street. And they were complaining about the height of our third-story building, adding, a few feet on the roof so that we could hide the air conditioning up there, with a hotel across the street that towers above it. And I was like, took 3 years, but we got it done. I'm glad to say. and it's built and it's going well. The car wash, by the way, I talked to my client the other day. He never built it. We won. We got it. It is zoned for a car wash, but it is still an empty lot.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, it hurts a little that we spent that much time, effort, and energy, and I was hoping he would make a lot of money in his car wash.
You know, the good thing about practicing law is that the fee can take some of the bite out of that pain.
I didn't charge either of them enough.
Probably not.
No.
You never do.
Definitely not. But okay, so, I think we're now 40 minutes in, and I've really enjoyed this podcast. Why don't we talk about crypto and bring it back to, I don't know, are we a crypto podcast? This is episode 2.
We're crypto.
I think probably by episode 200, we will know what type of podcast we are. But as of yet, we don't. So we're not gonna decide, but we should talk a little bit about crypto. And I think the new hotness on the street is Gary Gensler has filed a Wells notice against OpenSea, saying that NFTs are security. So that's why we were talking about NFTs earlier. So your Bored Apes and your chickens and Pepes and whatever else you bought in 2021.
Yeah.
That is now literally worth zero. The SEC is protecting you now against that.
But they're not going to make. Yeah, but you're not going to get anything out of this protection that they're putting in place. Don't get it twisted. I don't think that they're going to be able to. What you think? Are they going to claw back money for these people? I mean, come on.
No. What they're going to do is they're going to sue OpenSea and want OpenSea to give them billions of dollars, and OpenSea is going to give them something. And I hope OpenSea does what Coinbase is doing, what Consensus is doing, and
XRP.
what Ripple has done, and is fighting the SEC because at the end of the day, we need to find out what now. The funny thing is when the SEC comes and knock in, they call it a digital asset security. That is how they describe coins, tokens, and NFTs. So, which is, look, fair on them. If I was an SEC lawyer, the one thing I certainly would do is use the word security as often as I could in the pleadings and in my arguments. So, fair play on them. If I was the other side, I would maybe object to say, Your Honor, we haven't decided if this is a security. Yeah. They are, sort of subliminally talking to, the judge and getting the judge to say that these are securities. But, to me, how is it a security? Is it a investment contract? I mean, to me, it's more like a collectible. It's like a Pokemon card or a baseball card. NFTs to me are different than a traditional cryptocurrency because they are each individual NFT is its own token. It's its own specific ID, and you can track wherever it goes, who owns it. And there have been some cases. I think Bored Apes, had a case with Ryder Rips, which was this is now we're going into trademark law, and that was a trademark argument. But I don't think anywhere other than this case with the it's not a case yet. They sent a Wells notice. My guess is that they'll file suit against OpenSea shortly. But the question is, the real question is, why would Harris allow that to happen? I say Harris because to me, Joe Biden's state of mind, Harris running for president, I think she's calling the shots. And I would, if I were Biden, I certainly would just be like, you do what you want. I'm chilling in my last few months here.
Yeah.
How could she let Gensler do that when she is also vying to be the crypto president in a way? I mean, Trump is out. He's like, I'm the crypto president. You like crypto, you want crypto, I'm crypto. And that's his message to us as crypto people.
And I believe it.
And the funny thing is, Harris was going to speak at the Bitcoin conference that Trump spoke at, but then dropped out. And now Gensler, to me, it's like you're turning off all of the crypto people. Whether it doesn't matter any of your other politics. If crypto is your number one issue, to me, you vote Trump. You can't vote Harris, especially after Gensler, filing with OpenSea. I mean, to me, that's like the final straw. Well, what do you think? I mean, is it a security? How could Gensler do this? I have no idea.
How are you going to call an NFT a security? And we're talking about, and we are talking about the collectibles here in general. You know, I could see, and let's face it, you know, you and I, we could come up with some kind of investment thing and sell NFTs that had cash flow attached to it or whatever it is, but that would be a security. We wouldn't do that because that like gives him that gives Gensler what he wants. It's a security, but this is not even close. And look, on crypto for these presidential candidates, there's no question that Trump is the better one on crypto. Really, you have a tough time seeing what Harris is actually for, other than joy. That's the big thing with the joyful campaign. And then I think she's for censorship. You can see she's for censorship, heavy censorship.
Look, we've got to have another podcast on censorship and, you know, what actually are the laws in the EU and in the UK, you know, and how that sort of plays out in direct contrast to our First Amendment rights here in the United States. So, you know, we kind of always go back to the SEC versus Howey. It was like the Howey test. I think it had to do with orange groves. We didn't prepare this. We didn't look at, you know, any of the Howey. I mean, I like to look at it and sort of bring it up, and I like to reread it if I'm going to have a discussion about it. You know, there's basically a 4-part test. You know, it's got to have an investment of money, which sure, I mean, NFTs have money.
Yeah, we got that.
The real thing is there's you know, an expectation of profits from the investment, and I think that's where, you know, some NFTs maybe. Now, look, if your NFT denotes a ownership in a company or, you know, something to that effect, you know, that sort of brings it a little bit closer to a security. But if it's literally just, man, these monkey pictures and they're kind of cool and you can use them as your profile picture on, you know, pick your social media platform. You know, is it a common enterprise? I think that's the next part. And you know, the profits come from the efforts of the promoter or the company,
or others.
Yeah, exactly, or others. So you know, I don't know. To me, NFTs sort of don't really fall in that. And this is one of those, again. The major question hasn't been decided. What are NFTs? Who's going to regulate them? The SEC loves to just go after and promote their agenda. Oh, is what it seems like almost. It's like unbelievable.
Well, yeah, you know, and it sucks that the SEC has an agenda because it is not. No one in there was elected.
Right.
You know, they don't. In my mind, they don't have the right to have an agenda.
No.
And, you know, this also ties in a little bit. It can tie in a little bit to our first podcast. We talked about deference to the agencies. And let me tell you, that was a good deal for crypto. The case that came out that overturned Chevron, it was the Loper case. Loper and Bright. And it said that no longer do courts have to pay attention even to how an agency interprets the law. The courts are going to find the best way because that's their job. I mean,
it's the court's job. Yeah.
We didn't elect them, but we elected the people who appointed them. So it's only proper that it go through that look, judges need to interpret statutes, not bureaucrats. You know, SEC, whatever. The only one I think that's actually pretty good at interpreting the law is the United States Department of Labor when it comes to longshore cases. You guys are unbelievable. You're the best. We could carve out something for you. Let's carve out something in Loper for these guys. They're really beautiful. They're gorgeous.
I've dealt with the Department of Labor a few times, so
they're liberal, and I like it.
Yeah, and you know, I'm on the other side. I usually defend companies from discrimination cases. Is what I've done with the Department of Labor. I'm undefeated, by the way. I'm just saying.
Well,
now we've never had, you know, they always say the Department of Labor typically would listen to the discrimination case and then they make a ruling and then they always say, you know, they'll either take the case or they'll say you have to sue on your own, and we've always had it done where they dismiss it and sue on their own, but we've never been sued for it. Because I was in-house counsel for a construction company for a while, and we had many of those cases. But yeah, like you're talking about, the SEC and so I think this is another really good. I'm really glad that Chevron was overturned. It's just another sort of feather in the cap, or if you want to call it another arrow in the quiver that we can use against sort of over-regulation. And to me, the Wells notice to OpenSea is just ridiculous. I don't see how, unless it's a very specific NFT that they're suing over, which to me they would go after the company and not OpenSea. If it was maybe the ownership in a company and they didn't register it through traditional means, they have it on an NFT and then you could sell it to anybody. And there's probably the exemption that you use, whether it's Regulation D, or if you're outside the U.S., Regulation S to invest in some of those companies, then, if they didn't follow that, didn't have that exemption, and then we're trading those, potentially I could see an argument that those are securities, but not just plain everyday, caked apes. I don't know. It's just like, it's just silly to me. It's like, why don't we go after, I don't know, pick a store that sells collectibles like, Pokemon cards. Just take down the stores.
Baseball cards, yeah.
Baseball cards? Where do you even buy those now?
Used
I know
to be
GameStop sells like Pokemon cards, but
I don't know. I don't know where you get the cards.
Comic book stores?
There's
a
They
few
even
comic
have
book
those
stores
anymore?
here in New Orleans. Yeah, there's like 2 or 3. Well, actually one closed. There's 2. One where the owner smokes a lot. Shout out to the smokers if you want to go to that one. Every time I walk in, I'm like, man, I smell like smoke when I leave, so I don't go to that one.
You're smoking tobacco?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's
He's
not
not
marijuana.
getting
It's
high?
an actual, just like cigarette. Like,
cigarettes, eh?
And it just smells horrible. The comic book smell, and I'm like, it's not ideal. I'm just not a big fan of that. Now, if you like that, cool. And if you're,
I used to.
and if you're an owner of that store, like, more power to you. But literally, the only reason I don't come in there is because you smoke. So just know that. And I'm not gonna name the names. There's really like 2, and the other one. The other comic book store is great. My son and I go there a lot, and we buy comic books, which is fun. And they have like dollar comic books you can go through. And there's an old one in Metairie that closed recently. It was kind of sad.
Was that the one on Severn?
It was like on Elise, somewhere around West Metairie, I believe.
okay.
And Elise in Metairie, and I forgot the name of it. That was a good store. I think there's like 3 or 4. But, as far as like where you would go to buy like Pokemon cards, I don't know. I really don't.
You used to just buy all of them in any place they sold candy, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Any place they had friggin' baseball cards. I don't even know why that stopped.
I don't either.
Maybe people weren't buying it, or maybe the federal government wanted to make us all less American and fucked us over with the baseball cards. I don't know.
Interesting. I go when we would travel. We find baseball cards sometimes. It's usually like like an antique type of store where they sell sort of everything. And there's a really good one in Kansas City. They sell baseball cards. They sold but it was old. It wasn't like brand new ones. And then there was one time we were traveling. This is also somewhere in Middle America. I forgot exactly where. Maybe it was on the East Coast, like somewhere in North Carolina. We found a store that literally only thing they sold was cards of all different types. It's soccer.
Wow.
That was a really fun store.
That'd be hog heaven if you're a big collector.
Oh, so after camp, my kids wanted Magic the Gathering cards.
Uh-huh.
So we went there to buy them. They sold those, and they had all kind of other cards. It was cool.
Yeah.
Those stores are few and far between, though. I mean, I don't know if they have enough customers with things like Amazon and like eBay. To me, those are sort of taken over.
Yeah, and I don't know. It used to be, it was a different world, obviously, but it used to just be a lot more fun to have the little baseball cards and shit. You stack them up, look at them.
I personally love comic books growing up. That was like one of my favorite things. So it was like G.I. Joe. I was big into G.I. Joe. And Gru the Swordsman. So Gru was like this kind of like a moron, but he was also the best swordsman in the world and could, like you remember Rambo 3, I think, when it was like the entire army was against Rambo and he somehow got out. Gru was like that. Like Gru could come with his 2 katana swords and kill an entire civilization, and then not know what direction he's going in or why he's doing it. It's really funny.
Well, yeah, that would be kind of funny. When you said Gru, I thought about the Minions for a second.
Yeah,
but yeah.
It's the same name, but
it's a reference to Gru.
Yeah, it's Gru the Wanderer. I'm gonna look it up. So all you people listening, please look up Gru the Wanderer. He's a fantastic character. I'm showing.
Oh yeah, that's familiar
you've seen
looking.
Him.
Yeah,
like you've seen him. Like it's good. He's got a little dog that follows him everywhere, and he basically takes out entire civilizations. Really good comic. So hopefully you can go buy one and read it, or I'm sure they have them online. It's not quite the same. You need the page where you turn and the little Spider-Man symbol in the corner. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Or whatever comic book you had.
I definitely, whenever I think of comic books, I think Batman.
Ooh, Batman's good. Yeah.
And I think of my favorite sort of Batman villain. You'll never see him in any of the movies because he was a ventriloquist dummy, man. It's so trippy, dude. Like, anyway, it's the dummy, and they keep calling him the dummy, but he gets mad when they call him the dummy because he's not a dummy. He just looks like a ventriloquist dummy. I mean, it's wildly ironic and enjoyable, but the guy's got rage, and it's scary because dummies. Let's face it. You ever see? Remember that movie that came out? We were little kids called Magic, and it had that dummy.
Yeah, Goosebumps reminds me of that too with Slappy. I don't remember him.
Slappy.
Man.
What do you think of me now, Papa? yeah.
R.L. Stine. So I think R.L. Stine and his books were sort of like really popular, sort of right after we were that age. So we sort of missed those.
I think we totally missed them.
Yeah, but I ended up watching now with my son some of those, and I remember Plant Dad. He was so scared. He thought I was actually Plant Dad, where this dad gets taken by a plant, and then it looks like the dad, but he's like sort of green, and he's trying to kill the family. That was really funny. But my kid was hysterically like crying because he thought I was Plant Dad. I was like, I'm just kidding. I'm really not Plant Dad. We joke about it now. It's really funny, but they made new movies, relatively, like Jack Black was in them.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of liked them. They were good.
I like Jack Black, man.
I like Jack Black too. We handle criminal here at the Bradley Law Firm.
I heard of people, back in the day that like somebody may give them a gun for a fee, like a beautiful pistol. That's pretty cool. That's
interesting. My dad was a criminal defense attorney in St. Charles Parish, Louisiana, growing up, and he was paid in random things like stereos and whatnot. But I think. So when I went to law school, my goal was to be a criminal lawyer, and I was like, that's all I want to do. It's going to be awesome. And then life gave me sort of a curveball, and I ended up doing civil work, construction, and I got into, crypto work, which I love. But, I think at the end of the day, and I'm stating this now, I really enjoy criminal, I think, the most. It is the most fun. Now, I want to niche down my practice, and I want to just do crypto, and I just want to do criminal. But we're going to still, we have other lawyers that can do other things here, and I'll still do, litigation. I love litigation, whether it's criminal or civil. To me, I find there's not a lot of lawyers that do civil and criminal work.
Right.
No, but at the end of the day, it's just, you're persuading people based on the law, and then it's not rocket science.
It's not really that different.
It's really not.
Yeah, I knew a guy, Rufus Craig, good friend of mine up in Baton Rouge, does both of them, criminal and civil.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's that crazy. People are always like, "Oh, you do both?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm arguing against somebody, and it's either about life and death. You're going to jail. You've killed somebody. You've beaten up somebody, or you broke a contract. The house was built wrong. Whatever. To me, that's sort of the same thing. It's just facts, and you're using them to your advantage.
Yeah, it's the same thing. You're either fighting over money or freedom or both.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's restitution involved.
Yeah.
Which, man, there are some laws here that are just wild, by the way.
Oh, with restitutions?
Yeah.
Or,
I think one of the main ones is contractor fraud.
oh, yeah. Where
It's basically a civil, disagreement that turns into criminal, and the government forces you to pay, or you go to jail. It's wild. It's sort of like, can we just like forego all this, and when my guy gets arrested, just give the money directly to the cops, and then it goes away? That would resolve it.
yeah.
I mean, that's what it feels like.
Oh, yeah, because they take the state takes the money and the state pays them.
So like my client will give me money, and I'll write a check out of my trust account to the district attorney, and then once it hits a certain point, the case goes away.
Wow.
To me, what does that sound like? If you don't pay, you go to jail. I'm like,
sounds like a good idea.
Well, I mean, sometimes the evidence is such that it's a good idea to take that deal.
Oh, and I don't know. I've been around plenty of contractors, and so I know that it is an industry that is rife with bullshit, much like my industry of practicing law.
Practicing law is really interesting.
It's a bullshit game, man.
It's kind of fun though. I like the podcast industry.
I like it too.
We should do this. Is more fun than, I don't know. I say that just, we haven't made any money on this podcast yet, have we?
No, but
by the way, we're looking for sponsors.
Yes.
We'll take. I mean, as long as it fits with our theme.
Which is
or if you have money, either one of those things.
Money fits with almost any of our themes.
I think so. Yeah, we could make it fit.
Right.
We'll just be an advertisement for whatever you are.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and it's
because
just,
like people ask me all the time, like, what about this? What about that? I'm like, I could argue either side.
Yeah.
And I could make it, I think, fairly legitimate and a little bit persuasive. And to me, either side works. And I mean, I've represented homeowners. I've represented contractors. I have never represented the state, though. I've never done that. I would if the state pays me. Hey, state, this is another invitation. If you want to come on the podcast and sponsor us, we could be the official Louisiana podcast.
Yeah. I'm talking to you, Jeff Landry.
I think
you animal.
He's probably like chomping at the bit at this point.
Jeff, this is the best show you've ever seen, and you know it. So let's get on board. It's better than fucking Walton and Johnson. Give us that. Ooh, Mr. Kenny.
Walton and Johnson. That brings back.
I love that show. Actually,
yeah,
I'm not going to call out WJ because they're Even though it's not the same two guys, the guy that does Mr. Kenny's voice is still fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I haven't listened to the radio in a long time.
I love listening to the radio, dude. I'm an old head that way. I'm unk, as the kids say.
That's true. So I was like the opposite. I was like, as soon as I could stop listening to radio, I did. Like that moment. Like if I had a CD or a tape, I would, There are times, though, where your tape jams. Someone has stolen your radio, like the actual physical player, but sometimes your radio still works. That was a potential possibility. That actually happened to me once. And then there was the faceplate where you had the detachable faceplate.
Oh, yeah.
Once that was stolen, it didn't work. Nothing worked.
You have to take your faceplate off. I had one that I took out I was able to take out the entire
radio.
radio.
You take out the whole radio. But then the faceplate was like the second sort of evolution of that. And that was nice because I would take my faceplate off when we were at Jesuit, and I would put that in my locker. And for some reason, I always remembered to get it at the end of school and put it back on and listen. But my radio was stolen at Jesuit from my Honda Civic multiple times.
Really?
I remember, yes. I got so many radios stolen. It was a Honda, so it was like the factory that was stolen. I put an Alpine in it. That was stolen. Mm-hmm. Finally, I got the one you're saying that was the removable, like the whole thing was removable. That was stolen because I left it in. The only one that was never stolen was the detachable faceplate because that was easy. I would always just take it off, stick it in my pocket, really stick it in my backpack, put it in my locker if I needed to. That was great. Shout out to Coach Avon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That guy's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
I had to go in his office a couple times, but it wasn't for anything real bad. And he understood that I was basically a good kid,
I think he did not understand that about me and thought I was a bad kid. I was a bad seed.
Because you're a shifty little guy, huh?
Yeah, I needed like constant reminders about my hair. I would escape from campus a lot.
Really? Well, yeah.
Because all right. I don't know if you remember this, but our senior year, there was violence around the school, and they stopped allowing seniors to leave for lunch. So we were the first seniors that had to stay on campus for lunch.
Right.
I said screw that, and I left almost every day for lunch.
Wow.
So what I did, and you can't do this now, there's cameras everywhere.
Right.
I would cross the street and go to the wrestling gym, which is across the street, and there was a back door that led outside, and you could just escape through there. Nobody would see you. You could leave a little rock or keep the door open and come back the same way. And I did that almost every day.
Wow.
And I got busted multiple times, but not that many, honestly, percentage-wise.
The amount of times you did it versus...
Yeah.
Wow.
I was caught like 2% or less.
You did a lot worse shit than I ever did.
I did a lot of bad things. Remember those like days of reflection where we would go and we would sign in and do stuff? So me and another person that I won't call out here, although he probably wouldn't care, we would sign in and then leave and go to Dunkin' Donuts and play Tekken video game. And
the
then,
fighting game?
Street Fighter, yes. We would do that. And then we would go or watch movies at his house and then go back for like the 3 o'clock or 2:45 and then sign out pretending we were there all day and got credit for it.
I forgot what the fuck we were doing while y'all were having fun.
I never knew.
You wouldn't
because
know.
those are the days we always left because it was like, oh, you sign in and then you sign out, but no one. You weren't in your regular classes, so no one really checked on you, and it worked out great.
I forgot what the fuck. Like, I don't even know.
It was like a day of reflection. Like I think you were praying and like yoga. I have no idea.
Yeah, but I just.
I really don't know.
Yeah, day of reflection. It sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah. And now you can't do that. You can't leave because there are cameras covering the entire campus.
Oh yeah, dude.
You're done. You have to pay. You have to do the right thing. Like lawyers really are. Like I think it it sort of changes your mindset a little bit.
Yeah.
You get jaded. I think to a certain extent.
I'm jaded.
I certainly don't care as much about emotions as I used to.
Yeah, you've got to sort of check a lot of those, and it's hard to do that.
Well, you have to be a certain kind of person to have someone's sort of future in your hands. Like if you are a criminal lawyer and, this person's relying on you to stay out of jail or at least have their rights asserted, sometimes the facts are such that they are guilty, sometimes not, but you have to be competent and you have to sort of not have any emotion and go in there and say, look, here's the deal that we're offered. It's a good deal. We should take it, or let's go to trial. I mean, don't mess around. Like this is a bad deal and we need to go to trial. Now, you get a bad deal typically when the facts are against you. That's also sort of how it works. And when the facts are for you, you get a really good deal, and it's like, well, we could go to trial and win, or this deal is so good that it's hard to pass up.
Yeah, you got to take a deal, but and the thing in these, I think that when the prosecutor offers you a deal, it's different from when the insurance company offers me a deal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because insurance company, I mean, they actually want to just end the risk, right?
Correct.
The prosecutor wants time. He wants you to have time, and he or she needs to push you on that. And it's just but I think that if the deal doesn't go through the prosecutor, they're all like, "Fuck it, man, just go free, dude. It's not gonna cost me anything." They're not gonna fire me.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely. To me, if doing both criminal and civil, the criminal world is really like the Wild West because you get discovery, but you don't do depositions. You sort of hope and pray what the victim's going to say. It's a wild. Where civil, I think, if you are going to trial, I mean, you likely have overturned every leaf. I mean, you've looked at everything. You've gone through the discovery. You've talked to every witness. you essentially know everything that's going to be said. If it's a jury trial, that's obviously an X factor and a wild card that you can't predict, but you potentially know what the jury makeup will be like, or the judge. If it's a judge trial, you certainly know what the judge is going to expect. By the way, I had a judge trial the other day, and it was like just so vastly different than a jury trial. It was so quick. We sat down, judge like, let's go.
Yeah, there's
First
no
witness,
opening statement.
Boom. No. The funny thing is, this is funny. So, the opposing counsel was a former judge in this trial, and the former judge asked the current sitting judge, can I do a closing statement? And the judge was like, no. He said, I'll let you do a post-trial memo. And I was like, and I think we haven't won yet. This is still pending, so we're not going to talk about it. The judge hasn't ruled. It's in Jefferson Parish, but it's been weeks, so I'm expecting an opinion any day. I was expecting one yesterday, didn't get it. Next week, hopefully. I think we won.
It's rather exciting.
Well, it's, kind of, but the problem is in civil, and a lot of people don't know this, when you win a judgment, the worst thing happens is now you have to collect on the judgment.
Yeah.
You don't just get a check. It's not like this magic thing where you have a judgment and you're like, hey, give me the money. And they're like, it happens sometimes. Sometimes they'll write a check. But if they don't, you have to collect. You have to take that judgment, and you have to have a judgment debtor rule, and you have to say, okay, give me all your assets and everything you ever owned, and you go through it. By the way, I hate collections more than anything. That's not true. I hate family law more than anything. I hate collections second most.
I don't do family law because I shouldn't be involved in. I mean, I'm just trying to win that thing, man. I've done it before, and I've sat there, had to badger the mom on the stand and make her lie.
Yeah.
And, I was like, Judge, didn't you see this woman lie? We go in chambers, he's like, yeah, I saw her lie, dude, but guess what? Your client is a scumbag, and, I'm not letting the kids go. I'm like, fuck, man, come on. I just won. Like, putting up a good show as a lawyer and, hammering down some, divorcee on the stand is it's not as and I didn't really feel good about myself. I was just doing it because I had to do it.
Yeah. I think sort of domestic violence is another. We have domestic violence clients, and that's a touchy situation if you have to question and again, I hate this, but in criminal law, the person who allegedly had damage put upon them is considered the victim, and they're called the victim. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, that's, I hate the way that they do that. It already paints a picture to the jury. Now, it's just the way it is. It's you go in and here's the victim.
Well, I mean, like you object to the term
of course,
victim?
Yeah, in trial, yeah, but throughout the process before the trial, it's called the victim, and there's victim counselors, and there's victim correspondence at the DA who's like, I'm calling the victim, and it's called victim. So the judge hears the word victim 10,000 times a day. I think it puts him in a certain mindset. I'm putting that out there. I think we need to change the rules and stop calling him the victim.
Well, there's a lot of other plaintiffs' attorneys that won't use the word accident, for example, because it connotates, it's just an accident. It's nobody's fault. Like, everybody just go back to what they're doing. When you're a little kid,
that's a good
you're
point.
with a little brother, but, when you got a brother, whenever, dude, it was an accident.
It's never an accident, right?
Yeah, it's never an accident, but, so, and I can, but I'll tell you that in the civil arena, especially when you're dealing with a mass tort, like the BP claim, for example.
Yes.
We use the word victim constantly.
Sure.
Because we're trying to expand the definition of victim to meet as many people as you can.
It's like, it's subliminal. And whenever we're writing a brief or a motion to suppress or whatever, I mean, we'll put words in there that I think are persuasive on purpose. I think that's important as a lawyer, that you zealously represent your client, and part of that is using proper language that gets the judge or the jury to listen to you and kind of like you. So, I have played and I typically kind of do this sort of, and I've been in a few trials, and well, judge trials, no, because the judge doesn't care. He just wants the evidence, which is great. But jury trials, you can play like the goofy person sometimes and just be like, yeah, and then kind of like stumble on the evidence, and so there's sort of tact. So here's the thing. I will tell you this. I do have a strategy if it's and if it's something where the victim's of female and it's domestic violence, and my client comes in like well dressed and sort of alpha male, I have to play the beta male role. Otherwise, if we both come on fully dressed, ready to go as alpha males, that to me creates the wrong sort of picture for the jury immediately. So you want to have, if he's not the alpha male and he's a little different, you can step up but you don't want to have two alpha males in a domestic violence situation. That's just my personal opinion.
I agree.
It paints the picture wrong. I have to be sort of not too comical, because then the jury thinks that I'm not taking it seriously. Really goofy is the right way to put it. Maybe I'll have my tie off a little, or my shirt might become untucked. And they're like, "Who is this idiot?" But at the end of the day, it's really a show, which is funny. It's like acting. And,
yeah.
It's an interesting way to make a living, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I never really thought about that. Like, but that reminds me of like when you're going to a trial and you've got an injured client, and does your client look injured? Because people go and look at that dude.
Yes.
And if he looks like he's not injured, if he's looking good and sharp and like he's got all his money and he hadn't missed work and he hadn't missed a meal and this and that, well, they're not going to. You're looking for people to feel sorry for your client, and
do you tell them to like don't jump up too fast from your chair, just slowly get up? I mean,
tell them that to sort of. It's most important to just
we do it ethically, by the way.
Yeah, you do it ethically,
but
you tell your client to be very deliberate.
Yes.
You want them because even the fact that you're telling them to be deliberate, that's going to slow him down during the trial. He's got to get paid.
Well, that's interesting, and like the criminal part too is interesting. It's kind of like. You want your client to sort of show emotion, but not too much. There's a fine line. I mean, because juries, man, if you don't get them on your side quickly, it's a problem. I mean, you got to like get in there, and it's not all about the facts. It's really probably a little bit about the facts. I mean, I've actually been a juror before in a criminal matter.
Wow.
And I was, and they wanted me to be the foreman, and I was like, no, I don't want to be the foreman. I got chosen, and I was like, I'm a lawyer, and they're like, I don't care, I want you in this, and it was the stupidest case I've ever seen go to trial, and I was like, this is ridiculous. It was a sexual battery, sexual abuse on a young girl, which clearly didn't happen. And then the defendant was facing deportation to a Central American country if he won. He was like, basically, I kind of don't want to go. I don't want to win because I'm going to get killed if I go back to my country. And we were like, why are you taking this to trial? But I will say the interview between the social worker that interviewed the small child to find out if in fact her claims of sexual abuse were legitimate or not, that was the worst interview I've ever seen. That woman needed to go to jail. It was atrocious. The whole entire jury was like, there's no way he did this. This is ridiculous. And I was just flabbergasted.
Oh, they kind of led the little girl along.
100%. I mean, it was the most atrocious thing I've ever seen. I mean, the guy clearly didn't do it. And, he was exonerated, and I don't know, he went back to literally ICE was in the courtroom. Like,
wow.
It was like one of those deals. And I was like, why does this case have to go to trial? Like,
yeah.
They should have honestly, they should have deported him. I mean, it was very clear from the evidence that he didn't do it. I mean, the DA had to see that. And this is in Jefferson. And I was like,
Oh,
The judge came in and talked to us after, and I'm like, Judge, this is why would you take this to trial? This is insane. He's like,
why didn't
they wouldn't take the deal. Essentially, is the whole thing. So
he wouldn't take the charge?
He wouldn't take the deal that they offered him.
Oh,
and
so he's like he's going back to get killed.
Yeah,
if he wins,
it was a weird scenario, and it was sort of the dumbest waste of our taxpayer dollars that I've seen in a long time. I'm sure almost every trial is like that.
There's a lot of waste.
The jury.
There's a lot of waste going on out there.
Yeah. Watchers and our listeners, that we are going to read the censorship laws in the UK and the EU. I believe the EU covers France and lots of other countries. I did some sort of, I don't remember. It was like my final project for law school I did on the EU. And I thought it was a bad idea and that it was going to fail. But this is a while ago. And funny enough, the UK is now out of it. But we're going to read those laws, and we're going to come back and have sort of a good discussion. We probably need a guest. That would be a fun one to have a guest.
It would be fun to have a guest. I think we may also give you some good football picks.
We need a guest from Europe. But now here's the problem. If a guest from Europe comes on here and says that the government's doing bad things, they're censoring, and COVID's not real, what happens? Does that mean that our podcast gets them in trouble if it plays in the EU? I don't know. We need to find that out. That's interesting. We should probably quit.
We should quit.
And we're going to come back, and we're going to have a really good discussion on the EU, UK censorship, and how it is vastly different, well, hopefully vastly different from our First Amendment here in the United States and our rights. And, maybe not. I mean, look, there's been some censorship, social media censorship in the last 4 years that to me is problematic. So,
yeah, I mean, instead of censoring it, just knock it off the fucking air.
Okay, so EU Charter of Fundamental Rights, Title II, Freedoms, Article 11, Freedom of Expression and Information. We're going to read that.
Yeah.
We're going to find some cool cases, and we are going to report back and hopefully give you guys an overview of the EU and the UK laws and how to stay safe if you visit there. Let's say you're visiting Europe this summer, and you say COVID is not real. And, I don't know, pick something else. And Macron's an asshole. Do you go to jail?
Yeah.
So we're going to read that, and we'll come back to you because I literally don't know anything. I do know about MICA, which is the sort of the EU cryptocurrency law, but I don't know anything about freedom of expression in the EU, and we're going to learn. That's exciting. We're going to do that. So
hell yes.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being on the Jarred Bradley and Jarred Vincent podcast, the Jarred and Jarred Legal podcast, and we will be back next week.
We'll see you next week, kids.